The sun had only just risen over the Serengeti, casting its golden hue across the vast expanse of grasslands, when Layla stirred from her slumber. The lioness blinked slowly, stretching out her limbs, her tawny fur shimmering beneath the morning light. Around her, her 3 cubs wriggled sleepily, nestled against her warm belly. They were only a few weeks old, still learning to walk, still utterly dependent on her for warmth and milk. Layla had chosen this quiet corner of the savannah, away from the pride, to raise her young in safety. Though isolation came with its risks, lack of protection, scarcity of food, it also meant her cubs wouldn't fall prey to the ruthless hierarchy of the pride. The older lionesses sometimes killed the cubs of others if they saw them as competition. Layla couldn't bear to take that risk. She had already lost her first litter to the claws of a rival lioness. This time, she would protect them at all costs. As Layla rose to her feet, her ears twitched at an unfamiliar sound, faint, trembling, not far from the edge of her den in the tall grass. A high-pitched whimpering, not unlike the cries of her own cubs. Her eyes narrowed. She padded cautiously toward the sound, each movement smooth and silent, her instincts both curious and wary. There, hidden beneath a thicket of acacia roots, was a tiny creature, barely bigger than her own cubs. It trembled violently, its short, spotted fur matted with blood and dust. It let out another soft whine, lifting its oversized head to peer up at her with wide, desperate eyes. A hyena cub. Layla froze. Every instinct in her body screamed that this was an enemy. Hyenas and lions had fought for dominance over the same territories for as long as the grass had grown on the plains. They killed each other's young without hesitation. If the rest of the pride had found this cub, they would have torn it apart without a second thought. But there was no pride here. There was only Layla. She sniffed the air cautiously. There was no scent of the cub's mother, only the stale tang of a recent scuffle, the sour copper of blood. A leopard, perhaps, or a jackal. Something had killed the mother and fled. This cub had been left behind, a helpless orphan in a world that had no mercy for the weak. Layla stepped back, uncertain. She looked at the cub again, at the way its tiny paws trembled, the raw hunger in its cries. It didn't know she was a lioness. Or maybe it did, and didn't care. It just wanted warmth, milk, a heartbeat beside its own. She turned away. But the moment she did, the cub cried louder. Her ears flattened. The sound echoed through her, striking something deep within her chest. She had felt that cry before, in the dead eyes of her first litter. She had walked away from them then, forced to leave their lifeless bodies behind after their murder. She had no choice. Now, she had a choice. Against every instinct, against the history written in the blood of the savannah, Layla turned back. Slowly, she picked up the hyena cub in her jaws, not with the crushing grip of a predator, but the gentle cradle of a mother. She carried it to the hollow where her lion cubs waited. Her 3 young ones stirred as she lay down beside them, the hyena cub nestled at her side. At first, there was confusion. The lion cubs sniffed their new sibling with uncertain noses, giving tiny growls and huffs of breath. But the hyena, too young to know fear, wriggled closer and latched onto Layla's belly with a grateful whimper. Layla sighed and lowered her head, her golden eyes scanning the horizon. She knew this would not be easy. The plains of the Serengeti were no place for mercy. She had defied the laws of her kind by taking in a sworn enemy. But there was something about the orphan's cry, something that told her this story was not over. And so began the tale of an unlikely family, one bound not by blood, but by something older, something deeper than species or survival. By the time the sun had risen high in the sky, the baby hyena was fast asleep, nestled between its lion siblings, beneath the protective gaze of a lioness who had chosen compassion over instinct. Layla didn't yet know how this act would ripple through the lives of everyone it touched. She only knew that, for now, she was not raising 3 cubs. She was raising 4. The days rolled forward like the slow march of clouds over the savannah, quiet, persistent, filled with the subtle rhythms of survival. Layla's den, tucked beneath a natural hollow shaded by rocks and shrubs, remained hidden from the prowling eyes of scavengers and predators alike. And within that shelter, the strangest of families grew stronger. The hyena cub, whom Layla had come to call Nia, quickly adapted to life among her lion siblings. Her legs were thinner, her ears larger, her laugh like yips, louder and more shrill. But none of that seemed to matter to Layla's lion cubs, who accepted her not just as a companion but as a sister. They played together in the dust, pouncing and tumbling with soft, clumsy paws. They napped in tangled piles of fur. They fought over teats and nuzzled into their mother's belly as one. To Layla, it was as though Nia had always belonged. But the Serengeti doesn't forget its laws so easily. On a dusky afternoon, with the golden grass shimmering in waves beneath the weight of the sun, Layla heard the low, unmistakable rumble of lions in the distance. Her ears twitched. The pride was near. For weeks, she had avoided them, hunting at odd hours, staying hidden in unfamiliar territory. But prey had grown scarce. Her body was leaner now, her strength harder to maintain while nursing 4 cubs. She couldn't avoid them forever. The lioness padded away from her den, her muscles tense with decision. She had to feed them. Just one kill. If she was quick and careful, she could return before the pride caught wind of her, and of Nia. Hours later, under cover of twilight, Layla returned with blood on her breath and a fresh carcass gripped in her jaws. She was exhausted but triumphant. She expected to find her cubs asleep. Instead, she found trouble. 2 lionesses from the pride were there, Zari and Imba, powerful and experienced, their golden coats streaked with dust. They were inspecting her den with narrowed eyes. Layla's heart dropped. Her cubs were huddled together, and Nia was in the middle of them. The hyena's strange yips must have drawn the lionesses. Her scent, so different from the others, had betrayed them all. "What is that?" Zari growled, baring her teeth. "Layla, what have you done?" Imba stalked closer, her yellow eyes fixed on Nia. "A hyena? You've brought a hyena among your cubs?" Layla dropped the kill with a thud and stood protectively in front of the den. "She's a cub, an orphan, no threat," Zari snarled. "She's an enemy. You shame your bloodline by keeping her alive." Layla's growl rumbled in her chest, low and dangerous. "She drinks my milk. She shares my den. That makes her mine," Imba scoffed. "And when she grows, will she share our territory? Our kills? Or will she turn and tear your throat out like her kind always does?" Nia whimpered softly behind her, instinctively curling close to her lion siblings, who, though afraid, did not move away. Layla's cubs didn't understand species or loyalty. They understood warmth. They understood play and family. And they loved Nia. Layla drew herself up, the sun behind her outlining her powerful form. "I will leave," she said. "I'll raise them alone. You will not touch her." There was silence. Zari and Imba exchanged a look. Then, slowly, Zari nodded. "So be it," she spat. "You are no longer of the pride. You will hunt alone, raise your misfit pack away from us. But remember, Layla, when the drought comes, when the jackals circle, no one will help you." They turned and vanished into the grass, their tails twitching like angry serpents behind them. That night, as the stars blinked open over the plains, Layla lay awake while her cubs slept beside her, Nia nestled under her foreleg. She licked the hyena's scruffy fur gently, cleaning away the dust and fear. Her muscles ached, but not from the hunt. She had lost the protection of the pride. The price of her decision was clear. But so was the reward. Because when Nia opened her eyes and looked up at her with unguarded trust, Layla saw something rare, something worth every sacrifice. Not just survival, but love. Family, built not from blood, but choice. The next morning, Layla led her cubs into new territory, dangerous, untamed, but free. And as the grass bowed before them, a strange and beautiful sight unfolded. A lioness, walking proudly, flanked by her 3 golden cubs, and 1 striped, spotted shadow. A hyena who called a lioness mother. The rains came late that season, and with them, hardship. The once golden plains of the Serengeti faded to dull, brittle yellow. Waterholes shrank to cracked mud, and the herds that had once dotted the horizon thinned into ghostly trails of hoofprints and dust. Prey became elusive. The land, once teeming with life, whispered only of survival. For Layla and her 4 cubs, the days grew harder. She was thin now, ribs faintly visible under her coat. Her muscles ached constantly. With no pride to share the burden of hunting, she had become a lone predator with too many mouths to feed. Each kill cost her dearly. She could not afford to fail. And Nia, once the smallest of the 4, had grown. She was not like the others. Her legs were longer, her coat a patchwork of spots and stripes, her laugh piercing the silence in moments of play. But more than that, she moved differently. Nia stalked low, her head forward, her gait unlike that of her lion siblings. She didn't have their weight, their power, but she had something else. Speed, cunning, silence. By now, the lion cubs, Tamu, Baro, and Sefu, had also grown strong. They were weaned, their muscles firming beneath golden fur. They sparred in mock fights, swatted tails in lazy circles, and followed Layla in the early stages of their first hunts. But it was Nia who began to surprise Layla the most. She didn't just follow, she learned. At first, Layla hadn't known what to expect. A hyena in lion skin, a creature raised against every instinct of her kind. But the night they tracked a small herd of impala, Layla saw something she had never imagined. Nia led the ambush. It began with a missed kill. Layla had spotted the herd near the edge of a dying stream. She signaled the cubs to stay hidden, then crept forward, her form flat against the earth. But the wind shifted at the last moment, and the impala bolted, too fast, too far. She crouched in frustration, panting. Then, like a flash of lightning, Nia burst from the grass, not toward the herd, but across it. Not chasing, but driving. Her strange, angled sprint sliced through the flank of the impala, scattering them wildly, driving one, just one, toward Layla. The lioness reacted without thinking, launching from the grass with a roar and bringing the impala down in a single crushing bite. There was silence after, only the rush of her breath, and the stunned gazes of her cubs. And Nia, panting, tail wagging like a pup, approaching with bright eyes. Layla stared at her. Nia had not hunted like a lion. She had hunted like a hyena. And it had worked. That night, the family ate well. Even Baro, the boldest of the cubs, gave Nia his chunk of meat without argument. Layla watched them beneath the stars, their bodies curled close despite their differences. Something old and primal warmed her heart. Nia was not a lion. She didn't need to be. She was something new, but peace in the Serengeti never lasted long. A week later, while returning from a waterhole, Layla caught wind of danger. Not the wind-sniffing threat of a predator, but something worse. Hyenas. She crouched low, her body tense. The scent was strong, fresh. Not scavengers on the edge of her territory, but a clan. They moved like shadows between the trees, and soon she saw them, half a dozen strong, led by a thick-necked matriarch with a scar over one eye. Nia froze when she saw them. Her hackles rose. She made no sound. The matriarch saw her. She barked, a guttural, laughing call that sent the other hyenas wheeling to face them. Layla stepped forward, snarling, placing herself between her cubs and the threat. But the matriarch didn't attack. Instead, she watched Nia. A strange moment passed, heavy with something unspoken. Recognition? Confusion? The hyena matriarch lowered her head slightly, eyes narrowed, sniffing the air. Nia stared back, trembling but firm. Then the hyenas melted into the grass and were gone. That night, Layla lay beside Nia, who stared silently at the moon. "You don't belong to them," Layla said quietly. "And you don't have to." Nia didn't reply, but she leaned into her mother's side, pressing her ear against the soft thud of Layla's heartbeat. She had made her choice. Seasons passed. The cubs became juveniles, and the family grew into a unit unlike any other on the plains. Nia proved invaluable. Her ears heard prey before the lions could. Her nose detected danger long before it reached them. She became a scout, a hunter, a sister, and a daughter. But whispers spread. Lions spotted the strange group in the north, one lioness, 4 young ones, and a hyena walking among them like kin. Hyenas, too, took notice. Some began to follow from a distance, drawn by the scent of one of their own. One fateful night, a circle of hyenas cornered Layla's family. Not a clan, but rogues, young, hungry males. Layla braced for the fight. But Nia stepped forward, and howled. It wasn't a lion's roar. It was a hyena's call, piercing, full of defiance, claiming ground. The rogues hesitated, unnerved. It wasn't a sound a lion should have made. Nia moved with certainty now, shoulders rolled forward, tail high, not as a cub, not as prey, but as a creature who had grown into her own power. They left without a fight. Years later, long after Layla's eyes turned milky with age, she rested beneath a tree while her children hunted. Nia returned first, carrying a kill. She had grown tall, strong, leaner than a lioness, heavier than a hyena. Her laugh had deepened, her eyes sharper. She was a being the Serengeti had never known. Layla blinked slowly, her breath shallow. She watched as Nia sat beside her, head bowed. "You saved me," Nia said, voice rough but steady. "When you shouldn't have." Layla gave a faint rumble. "You were never a mistake." "I'll protect them now," Nia whispered. "All of them. The way you protected me." Layla closed her eyes. "Then I did well." And with that, the lioness who defied the rules of the wild took her final breath, cradled in the presence of the daughter she was never supposed to have. And so, the Serengeti changed. Legend spoke of a strange group led by a creature who was neither lion nor hyena, who hunted with silence and strength, who called lions her kin and mourned the passing of a lioness with the tears of a cub. She was born of bloodshed, raised by love, and shaped by the heartbeat of the wild. And they called her the unlikely cub.